Hi, I'm Kelly Kramer.
I'm Scott Sipker. Welcome to a warm summertime edition of Iowa Outdoors.
And the Great Iowa State Fair.
Coming up on this edition of Iowa Outdoors, a skill sport that people of all ages can learn how to do and see how many Iowa anglers are trading their fishing poles for a bow and arrow. We'll explore the complicated but carefully coordinated efforts by the DNR to fill its popular fish tanks with a variety of water species from Iowa's rivers and lakes. A fair competition that lures in anglers to test their lure tying ability and creativity. And see the impressive work of outdoor photographers who share their scenic images with fairgoers at the annual photography salon.
We'll have all that and more.
So sit tight, Iowa Outdoors is about to begin.
Funding for Iowa Outdoors is provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Lincoln Way Community Foundation in Clinton County to support nature programming on Iowa Public Television.
Mid-American Energy, helping to harness renewable sources of electricity through their investment in wind power. Information is available at midamericanenergy.com. Mid-American Energy, obsessively, relentlessly at your service.
Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on IPTV can be found in Iowa Outdoors magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.
Welcome to Iowa's signature outdoor gathering, a festival full of beauty, beasts, and surprisingly, the occasional moment of serenity.
A little bit later in our program, we'll profile an Iowa State Fair exhibit that you may have strolled by without noticing the finer details of nature's splendor.
But first, we'll begin with an activity that tests your patience, determination, and coordination. And you can assess those skills at the Iowa State Fair's DNR building.
Out like this. Pull all the way back, all the way back.
With a small dose of concentration, kids of all ages can experience archery for the first time. Just steps off the fair's grand concourse, the Iowa DNR building hosts hundreds of curious future marksmen and women.
Good.
But you don't have to wait until the fair to get outside and practice your patience and focus. Folks can take aim year-round.
You don't need to be tall, you don't need to be fast, you don't need to be good at team sports, but you can be good at archery.
Schools in several states have demonstrated positive returns for youth who learn target shooting skills. Teachers report improved student attention and motivation, while wildlife organizations claim the sport places an emphasis on conservation. Counties and municipalities seem to agree. This spring, introductory classes at Raccoon River Park's new archery facility in West Des Moines offered enjoyment for the novice and old hand alike.
That's the whole thing about it, just have a good time, have fun.
The dominant tool of choice for archers and bow hunters in North America is the compound bow. A system of cables and pulleys, or cams, alleviate the amount of strength needed to hold and shoot accurately. And while this technology has opened the sport to a broader portion of the population, veterans caution reliance on the latest gadgets may not consistently result in a bullseye.
A lot of archery is right up here between your ears. It's not anything else, it's thinking, it's your form, getting that down pat every time. And without form, you're not going to have anything.
A true master of the compound model, John Dudley grew up bow hunting in Mississippi. He took up target archery to sharpen his prowess as an outdoorsman. But the practice quickly led to fame as a professional archer and member of the USA archery team.
Compound archers travel with the recurve archers, literally all the same events minus the Olympic trial and the Olympic game.
No longer an active competitor, Dudley, or Dud as his friends call him, still globetrots, coaching national and Olympic teams all over the world. He offers specialized gear and apparel for archers under the brand Knock On, and even finds time to host a TV show chronicling bow hunts.
By having your posture correct, and the string stop at the corner of your mouth, you're gonna put this arrow in a perfect position for great arrow flight.
And if you're lucky enough to catch Dud between trips abroad, he might give you a few pointers.
Your shoulders in a line all the way through your elbow to your front wrist. From there, you've got a perfect foundation to be a great archer.
While target archery is popular worldwide, bow hunting is illegal in many countries. Dudley's unique perspective has instilled in him a deep appreciation of the privilege Americans have to hunt wild game. And it's also one reason why he now calls Iowa home.
Knock on, everyone, right here from Iowa.
People from every state in the U.S. come to Iowa for the best hunting opportunities, and especially as a bow hunter.
While big game seasons have wrapped up for bow hunters by summer, a growing number of Iowans are combining their love of archery with angling to get more target practice out on the water. Heavy rains raise river levels and can allow fish to escape into overflow areas, like this pond below Saylorville Dam just north of Des Moines. Certain species like carp may be trapped in these areas once waters recede.
See that one laying in the weeds right there? Good shot.
This phenomenon provides a perfect backdrop for bow fishing.
Of course, you got a string attached to your line, so it's fishing through the DNR. We're legally fishing with our bow and arrow.
Not as formal as standard archery, this style of angling has its own unique challenges.
You're on it today, dude.
Bow fishermen are allowed to spear less sought-after rough fish. Spotting this prey may be easier through polarized lenses. And those shots go a shorter distance. Getting accustomed to the optic disconnect of firing into water takes some practice.
It's a little adjustment. With the light reflection in that, you have to shoot lower. We don't use any sights on these bows. And it's just kind of a guess by golly thing, so.
It's all fun. You can miss all day long and you're just having fun. I mean, spending time with family, friends.
For archers of all inclinations, passing the sport on is a central goal.
Oh, definitely going with my grandson and just being outdoors with him. The more you're out, the more you respect things. Just want him to have the childhood that I had, able to enjoy the outdoors.
Fortunately, Iowa affords plenty of opportunities for bow fishing, bow hunting, and target archery year-round, from the fairgrounds and beyond. For families, teachers, and mentors alike, watching the next generation develop its abilities results in a deep sense of satisfaction.
Good job. I feel like when I pick up a bow, I have a God-given talent to shoot it. And I feel like it's a responsibility for me to show that to people. When you see a kid put an arrow in the center of a bullseye for their first time, it's a face that anyone is going to want to just see over and over again.
The Iowa State Fair is well known for its grandiosity, whether it be its animals or its food on a stick.
Somewhere around the corner from the 1,000-pound boar and the deep-fried Oreo is a gardening oasis.
This exhibit's overall size may pale in comparison to the enormity of the Iowa State Fair, but its splendid details are unmatched. Plant a seed and mix it with water, sunlight, hard work, and a touch of personality.
I think it's important to have beauty in our lives.
Then you get love at first sight.
Well, the colors are breathtaking.
Each year from the beginning of April to the very first snow, more than 500 leading gardeners in the Polk County area work diligently to bring beauty and the blessings of nature to 3 master gardens.
I think these gardens add to the beauty in a community and the quality of life in a community.
Essentially, they're there to help people learn about gardening and to learn about different aspects that are about the home gardener.
Casual observers may wonder who these Master Green Thumbs are, as they bring a dose of color and life throughout their community.
The Master Gardeners of Polk County are a group of people who volunteer and do ongoing learning together, all with the love of gardening in mind.
Our mission is to educate the public on gardening and to help the public on gardening, and not to do it for commercial. We don't do it to make money.
I decided to become a master gardener because I wanted to expand my knowledge, to learn more about plants and plant materials and how to grow them, and beneficial insects versus the bad insects. And it has really grown beyond that because it's just been a fun experience.
Discovery Garden plants are handled by volunteers who put in an extensive amount of hours to make sure the plants look their best when people visit them the most. During the Iowa State Fair,
I think is unique and special about this garden is it provides a sense of beauty and calm in a very busy atmosphere out here at the fair. We get 1 million people come through this garden during the fair, and they all just love it.
One of the things we try to do when we select our plants is to have them bloom or look their best during the fair. So peaking in mid-August in Iowa is a challenge.
And it's a challenge these volunteers accept with hundreds of hours in the dirt.
The volunteers are invaluable. We had a recent conversation with the fair, and we figured that last year there were 1,500 hours volunteered out here, specifically at the fairgrounds. I don't know what we would do without them. We have a team who take ownership in a certain bed. They design the bed, they order the plants that they want grown. It's a tremendous amount of time.
Another patch of organized greenery open for exploration is the demonstration garden, tucked right behind Walker Johnson Park in Urbandale. This hidden gem features 20 different garden beds, which have 2 to 3 volunteer workers who plant, water, and prepare them for public display.
Each garden has several beds, and each bed has a bed head. So the bed head and their team will usually meet late in the summer, starting possibly in August or September, and they will decide what their theme is for the coming year.
This garden has a lot of different things that are teaching elements. We have some themed gardens that change every year. This particular theme garden, for example, is focusing on the different seasons of the year.
The demonstration garden's focus is to teach visitors various aspects of gardening, including how to treat their soil, pruning, figuring out the right tools for the job, and utilizing modern technology.
This year, for example, we are having a class on gardening in the electronic age. So people can use their smartphones or Excel or, and do spreadsheets, that sort of thing for various gardening tasks that they do.
Every Thursday evening at the Discovery Garden, classes are held free of charge to the public, spreading the wisdom of master gardeners onto anyone within earshot.
We might teach a class on coleus, a specific type of plant. We might teach people how to do composting in their garden.
Gardening takes patience, and gardening teaches patience, right? Because when you think you're gonna have a plant that's gonna grow, it's gonna be fantastic, sometimes it takes its own time. And the other thing about is the weeding. The weeding and the watering, right? Sometimes you feel like all you do is pull weeds.
It's not the most fun part of gardening, but it has to be done.
If you're a person that has to have instant success, gardening is a tough road to hoe. It sometimes takes time, and you have to be willing to allow that time to pass.
The 5,000 square feet of gardening space is tucked next to the fair's agriculture building, and in its shadow rests a modest fish pond. A welcome, shady location to cool off on a warm afternoon at the Iowa State Fair.
Whether you're beginning the day or ending it at the Iowa State Fair, be sure to take a nice, relaxing moment to pay a visit to the Discovery Garden and allow your senses to spring to life.
If you can appreciate the intricate details of the State Fair's Discovery Garden, then perhaps you should venture over to the DNR building for some miniature works of angling art.
The Iowa Department of Natural Resources fly tying competition is only a few years old, but it's already capturing the attention of some creative anglers from border to border.
The details are so tiny, but for a group of hardcore aquatic artists, The potential rewards are enormous.
Our little club in central Iowa, I would say about half of the fly fishermen tie their own flies. So it's all in taking the sport another step further and getting the satisfaction of tying your own fly and then catching a fish with it. That's a real thrill.
Many anglers can buy their bait or tackle for lake and pond fishing at a local shop, while others may acquire a network of advanced flies for use on northeast Iowa's trout streams. But a different breed of fly fishermen mix angling with art, and they are going head-to-head in the Iowa DNR's relatively new competition.
From an aesthetic point of view and proportions, it's pretty nice. Use the jungle cock.
Nice ribbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ribbing's got nice even segments on it.
When you're fishing late winter, how the snowbanks will just be covered with these little, look like pepper. Yeah.
After months of tedious effort in their own workshops, competitors bring their micro-sized flies to the state fair in search of awards.
There's 4 categories: the dry, the wet fly, the nymph, a open category, and a streamer. And each one of those has kind of different types of proportions and use of materials.
I agree. From difficulty, this is certainly the most difficult to tie.
A small cluster of professional judges spend hours examining everything from craftsmanship to color to categorical correctness, as different flies can be the grand champ in their own respective classification.
There's a lot of different applications here in different materials and so forth.
Yeah, it's a more complicated tie.
Snow midge, is that in for a ribbon too?
Yeah.
Well, you have to determine the proportions so that you don't have an extra long tail or you don't have too fat a body, and how tall the wing is.
Of course, the recipes say to harden his head.
So it's all about proportions and use of materials, and then tying it neatly so that it looks like a head of a fish or a bug. We have a number of good tyers across the state of Iowa.
One of the State Fair's signature free destinations is the Iowa DNR's longtime on-site headquarters.
The building's centerpiece is a historic fish tank filled with various species that inhabit Iowa's rivers and lakes. But those fish didn't magically appear at the fairgrounds.
DNR staff spend weeks preparing the tanks, and more importantly, gathering an army across the state to put Iowa's aquatic specimen on full display.
Nearly 150 different fish species inhabit Iowa's lakes and streams, and you can see many of them during a 15-minute stroll through the Iowa DNR's legendary fair building. The classic brick-lined structure was built in 1921, and ever since it first opened its doors, the centerpiece has been a massive fish tank. With wide and tall glass aquariums in the round, guests of all ages can see fish species they may have never known were in their own Iowa backyard.
We've got 20 separate aquaria in here, and they are divided up mostly by habitat types, like reservoirs, below reservoirs, our trout streams. But we also have some aquaria, like the one in the corner with aquatic invasive species that we'll have in there for people to learn about the invasives that are coming into our state and how they can help stop those fish from coming in.
This popular structure is not a year-round exhibit. A massive statewide effort is marshaled to gather dozens of aquatic species from all corners of the state. Hatchery staff from northeast, south, and everywhere in between spend the warm weeks of July snagging fish via nets and electric shock techniques.
Because you can imagine we're bringing in trout from the northeast, we're bringing in fish from our southern reservoirs, and so all these people around the state are busy trying to collect these fish and get them in here in the next 3 days, preparation for the fair for our visitors to see.
Additional DNR staff spend weeks filling the state fair tanks and modifying water temperature and pH balance to make sure the short-term aquatic guests can adapt as best as possible for their 2-week stay at the fairgrounds.
We're bringing fish in from natural water bodies and putting them in city water. So the fish do not take that very well, that transition into the chlorine, especially in the city water. So we have chemicals that we're removing the chlorine with. And the fish are coming out of warmer water than we're putting them into here, because we have the trout, and the trout have to have cooler water. And so the whole aquarium is, the water is cooler than what the fish came out of.
As one of the few entirely free exhibits within the fairgrounds, DNR staff estimate hundreds of thousands of guests walk past these glass walls each year. And their newfound, or just re-energized, appreciation for all things fish make the weeks of preparation worth it.
So they come here, and then they want to know about the naturally reproducing trout in our northeastern streams. And so they might get some information, then travel up to northeast to fish for trout in a more natural situation.
One of the most popular annual attractions inside the Cultural Center is the State Fair Photography Salon. In 2014, the Signature Photography exhibit celebrates its 75th anniversary with a tribute to Ansel Adams, one of the world's most famous landscape photographers, well known for capturing amazing vistas like those within Yosemite National Park.
But we'll introduce you to a couple of Iowa photographers who are spending their time capturing some equally impressive Midwestern scenery. And their work, which is award-winning, is on display here at the Iowa State Fair.
It's a staple of State Fair competitions and exhibits, the Photography Salon in the Cultural Center, where camera-clicking amateurs, professionals, kids, and adults all compete for a coveted ribbon. This is one of the largest annual competitions in the United States. It's tough to win. What you see in the Cultural Center is the cream of the crop. Just getting a photo on display at the fair is an accomplishment and an honor.
We have over 3,000 photos this year that did not make it in. Out of 4,000 entries, we actually have 841 that actually made it into the fair.
The Photography Salon is celebrating its 75th anniversary with a salute to world-famous landscape photographer Ansel Adams. The unique twist on this year's tribute: every single photo in the exhibit is in black and white.
I have a different theme category every year, and it's a way I challenge the photographers to do something different. The theme this year is called My Ansel Adams, and it's about the Ansel Adams that lives within each side of each photographer. And what the premise was this year, they were to submit their best lifetime work.
Ken Johnson has enjoyed photography as a hobby for decades, but he competed in the State Fair Photography Salon for the first time in 2013. Judges chose all 4 of his photo entries for display, one of just 4 photographers to accomplish the rare feat that year.
I concluded that really those subjects that did the best were quite simple. And I think that's one of the challenges of photography, is to create simple images.
Johnson enjoys traveling not only around Iowa, but across the country to continue learning about photography and discovering the beauty of the world around him.
Photography is an expression of an impression. You have a certain feeling, an emotion when you see something beautiful, and you really want to capture that in the best way that's possible.
This photo of Johnson's gets the second place ribbon in the special Ansel Adams theme class.
Certainly I understand why Ansel Adams loved to shoot in Yosemite. It really is a fine black and white photography location.
For Larry Mendenhall, photography is a way for him to connect with nature. He became interested in shooting photos in high school, then worked as a newspaper reporter and photographer for several years before giving that up for the freedom and peaceful enjoyment of shooting stunning landscapes.
When you go someplace, especially for landscape photography, just leave the camera in the car. A man I study with named George DeWolf says you do 3 things: feel, see, and then shoot. And it's very important to take that time to get an appreciation for what's going around and kind of study the shapes and the forms.
This sweeping shoreline photo earns Mendenhall first place in this year's Places and Landscapes category.
I think my favorite image is one I call Summer Storm. I took that in northeast Iowa in this little town called St. Donatus. The rainstorm was just breaking up, and I could see this spotlight from the clouds just kind of moving across the field.
Greg Pinelli has a love of landscapes and a watchful eye for wildlife. He tries to get outdoors with his camera at least once or twice a week.
Well, I really got interested when I took a photography class my senior year at Dowling High School, and I developed my own black and white film, and it just has stuck with me ever since, and I kind of call it a hobby gone berserk, I guess. I love wildlife, anything out in the nature, landscape.
In 2013, Pinelli won first place at the fair for this black and white photo of the Center Street Dam in Des Moines. A long exposure provided the slow, silky, serene look to the river. This year, he gets an honorable mention for his look down a gravel road at an iconic rural Iowa farm scene.
The thing that I enjoy the most about photography, it really slows down my life when I'm out shooting. You observe and just notice every little thing about nature, and I love sharing those with images with people that might not have the capability of seeing that kind of thing.
The art part of photography is show us the world as we've never seen it before. If you do that, I guarantee you'll be in the Iowa State Fair.
You can't win if you don't enter. And I kind of believe photography isn't really completed until the photo is shared with someone. So there are a lot of good photographers or a lot of people, and they have really great work, but no one sees them. They're in a shoebox, in the closet, or they're on a hard drive someplace. So I'm kind of an advocate of letting the photos out where people can see them and enjoy them.
That wraps up this summertime edition of Iowa Outdoors. You can find any of our more than 70 features covering Iowa's outdoor environments and recreational opportunities online at iptv.org/Iowa Outdoors.
IPTV's talented producers and videographers will continue to crisscross the state in the months to come to bring you more images and stories for our 4th season of Iowa Outdoors. We're going to bring you a new episode the first Thursday evening and Saturday morning of each month throughout 2014.
We'll leave you with some of nature's finer details right here at the Great Iowa State Fair.
Funding for Iowa Outdoors is provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Lincoln Way Community Foundation in Clinton County to support nature programming on Iowa Public Television.
Mid-American Energy, helping to harness renewable sources of electricity through their investment in wind power. Information is available at midamericanenergy.com. Mid-American Energy, obsessively, relentlessly at your service.
Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on IPTV can be found in Iowa Outdoors magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.